Alright guys, so I wanted to go ahead and give you a heads up on what this monster genetics assignment looks like. Now this is a pretty big assignment, but it's really kind of 4 assignments built into one in which you're going to get 5 points each for. Just so that you guys understand, it's really 4 assignments. So it's not necessarily just one very large assignment. It is, but at the same time, just think about it like it's going to be 5 or 4 different assignments that you're going to have to earn a complete versus incomplete for on every single one of them. So just kind of look at it like that. Anyway, in part number 1, we're going to be talking about what we're going to call the female monster, okay? And I need you guys to follow the directions. So here it says download the coin flip app. If you guys don't have that already, I know a bunch of you do because I hear you playing with it all the time. But if you go into your self-service and you could search coin flip, or you can just find this one in here, but I have it right here, so I'm going to go ahead and reinstall it and make sure that I get this thing downloaded. But once you get this thing downloaded, what it is going to allow you to do is flip a coin, which you're going to need to do. So let's make sure that there it is. Okay, so this is fairly simple. You just tap it and it flips, and it either gives you a heads or a tails, right? In that case, it gave me tails. That's going to come in handy when you're doing this particular assignment. It says flip a coin twice to determine the genotype for each trait and record it in the data table below. If you flip a heads, that means that allele number 1 is the one that you get. If you flip tails, that means allele number 2. For example, if you flipped heads twice, your monster will have 2 copies of allele number 1 for his genotype. Alright, so let's start with that part. So let's take, for the female monster, remember that is what we were doing here. We were doing the female monster. Okay, so we've got the female monster, and we are going to take a look at the first one, which is eyes. Okay, now if I flip the coin, which I already did, I flipped the coin and I got tails, correct? Okay, so one of my alleles is going to be tails, and tails is going to represent allele number 2. So for this one, I flipped tails and I got allele number 2, so that would be one large I, but my allele is the little e. So the little e goes there in the genotype. Let's go back and flip it one more time. Flip it again. And this time I got heads. So I come back to the document. I flipped heads. That means allele number 1. And if I got allele number 1, that means 2 small i's. So that means I got a big E. So my genotype is big E, little e. Now it's up to us to figure out, okay, if I have big E, little e, what is the phenotype that is going to be resulting from that genotype? And we know that because allele number 1 has the big E right there, we know that 2 small i's is the dominant phenotype over 1 large I. So the phenotype here is going to be 2 small i's. So this monster is going to have 2 small i's. Now you're going to do the same exact thing for everything else down in this table. Okay, I think it's something like, let's count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's 12 different traits. So your monster is going to have 12 different traits. You just notice that some of them are a little bit different. For example, eye color down here, that's incomplete dominance. Skin color is co-dominance. Feet, whether or not it has 4 toes or 2 toes, is incomplete dominance. All the other ones are dominant versus recessive, but those ones are ones that you got to watch out for. Those ones are the ones that you want to consider for incomplete or co-dominance, okay? That's part 1. You will need to do this, and you will get either a complete or an incomplete for this particular part, and this is just for the female monster. Now, part number 2 is down here. This is the male monster. Okay, so the part 1 was female, this one is male. This one's a little bit easier. So we're going to say that the female monster described in table 1 is married to this male monster, and what we have to do is, in order for them to have baby monsters, we need to kind of figure out the genetic information. So in certain one of these, I'm going to give you the genotype. All you have to do is tell me the phenotype. That's it. In other ones, I'm going to give you the phenotype, and all you have to do is tell me the genotype. Okay, fairly simple there. You're just kind of looking at one and determining the other. We did a bunch of this with our SpongeBob stuff a couple of days ago. All right, now let's take a look at step number 3, or part number 3. This is going to be the Punnett score. So I'm actually going to go back up here. I'm going to fill out something real quick just so that we can all do this example together. So the male monster, when we're looking at the trait of eyes, if his genotype is little e, let's go back up here. So little e, if he had 2 recessive alleles, that would have resulted in 1 large eye. So the male monster for his phenotype has 1 large eye. Okay, now that's going to help us down here below. So what we have here is we're going to do a Punnett square. Okay, we're going to do Punnett square for that trait. So for eyes, what we need to do is create Punnett squares to determine the probability of the male and female monsters having a child with the specific traits below. So we want to see the probabilities of what eyes that they are going to have. So we're going to take the male monster, which was little e, and the female monster, which was big E, little e. And what we are going to do in this section is we're going to fill out the rest of that Punnett square. So it's going to be big E, little e, big E, little e, little e, little e, little e, little e. So the probabilities that we are going to find is if it's 1 small I, or sorry, 1 large I, the probability of 1 large I, in other words, little e, is going to be 50%, and the probability of having 2 small i's is also going to be 50%. Okay? All right, now that's part 3. Part 4 is the more fun part. Part 4 is where you're going to get to take, and I'm going to make sure that I highlight some things down here. In part 1, you found the genotypes and phenotypes for the female monster. Okay, I'm going to highlight female monster. Now is the time to show what that monster will look like. Okay, you can do this one of 2 ways. At a construction paper, we're going to say no because I'm not there, and so I don't want you to do it out of construction paper. I just want you to go ahead and be creative and do this on Notability. Do this in the space down below. Okay, so but I want you to do the female monster, all right? So once you have all this information about your female monster up here, what it's going to look like. So your female monster is going to have 2 small eyes. I should see a monster down here, and again, you can certainly do whatever you want to this monster, but your monster should have at least 2 small eyes, all right? Because that is the monster that you discovered or that you randomly selected for by using your coin flip app. And I should be able to see that monster down here. Again, this is the female monster. I don't want to see whatever this one was. I don't want to see the male monster. I want to see the female monster. You're going to receive 5 points for each of these parts. This is a total of 20 points, and all you have to do is follow the directions and do the very best that you can. All right? Guys, you're going to have whatever time you have left today, that'd be Thursday. Or you can also have some extra time tomorrow, which is Friday, to work on this. This will be due Monday morning. Okay, I would imagine that for a lot of you, this will take the majority of the time between those 2 days. Just make sure that you're taking your time and that you're doing things right. Don't rush through it and make mistakes. You have time. Let's make sure that we do it the right way. All right, guys, let me know if you have any questions, and we'll talk soon.